just mute yourself for a bit, and then I'll introduce you, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Let's do
See you
this.
in a bit.
Yep.
Hello everybody and welcome to the second to last round of the ORL F1 2019 Tier 2 Championship, or Tier B if you would like. And today the stage for this exciting afternoon's race is going to be São Paulo, more precisely the circuit of Interlagos, or the Autódromo José Carlos Pache. 4.3 kilometers is going to be repeated 36 times this afternoon for our drivers in a track that has a lot of the elements that make a good racetrack. It has elevation changes, it has a very long stretch from the second to last corner to turn 1, and of course it has some tight, more complex sections where the technique of each driver is going to allow them to be the quickest. To do that, the drivers are going to have the C3s as the softest tire available, marked in red. The C2s are marked in yellow as they are the mediums, and the C1s in art or in white are going to be the arts. Flex Marcy got his first win of the season last time out in Austin. Let's see if he's able to repeat the achievements. Looking at the table, we have Speed Booster still leading affairs with 243 points as the Renault driver has been crowned the champion. After that we have Iceman in P2, Black Panther in P3, Hypnotize in P4, just 10 points behind as Mark with 136 points completes the top 5. After that we have Duikert in the best of the Haas drivers, followed by Bird. Then we have Maya with 53 points alongside Barney, as both occupy 8th and 9th with the same amount of points, and Money occupies the last of the top 10 positions with 47 points. Moving to the constructors, it's Williams who still leads the standings with 281 points, followed by the Mercedes team, as the Brackley-based team has amounted only 204 points, 4 more than Woking-based McLaren, who sits in P3. Renault follows in P4 with 182 points, followed by Ferrari, as the Maranello team has 176. Red Bull follows in P6, followed by the American-based Haas, as the Silverstone-based Racing Point in 8 with 108 points. Alfa Romeo follows them as Scuderia Toro Rosso occupies the last 2 spots, full Italian, 2 last spots of the table. So with that, we can get ourselves started with this first practice session for the Brazilian Grand Prix, and as always, going to introduce you all to my fellow commentator colleague Maku. How are you doing? What do you have to say about this track?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty fine. And yeah, as you already mentioned, we had it a few weeks ago in the A split, and now we have it here in B split, and we have these basically the first straight with the DRS zone, and then the second straight, which isn't really straight, but it's flat out. It's pedal to the metal for like 2 corners, and then you get to the DRS to your DRS zone. And I think these will be again the big overtaking spots, and then in sector 2 the little more tricky section where you need to concentrate a little bit more on how to do your corners. And another thing I just mentioned is we as commentators have no track maps. I always wanted that.
Yeah, we do have the updates from Codemasters has introduced some features. We have a track map, as you can see on the right side of the screen, as we have Daryl, who safely, fortunately, is able to get back to the track after a spin coming out of turn number 8, I believe that was, not exactly sure, no, that was turn 7 or 8, I'm sorry. Oh, as he goes around again into turn 10, that's very unfortunate. His tires are overheated, and unfortunately he's going to have to bring those hards back into the track. I'm not sure why he is on the hards though. Mark is also on the hards, got P6 for the time being. Speed Booster showing why he is the champion with a 111.5 on the table right now. But I'm not sure why some drivers are on the hards, because you can just start on softs, go into the mediums at about lap 14 and take them to the end comfortably. So it is interesting to see some drivers on the hards. I mean, they don't lose anything by trying to figure them out in the case they have some unlucky moments at the start or somewhere along the race. But other than that, I don't see the white striped tires having any utility this afternoon. In the meantime, we do have a lot of drivers on their pits just yet. We have Felipe Nunes, who is racing for the Alfa Romeo today. Not sure why he's not racing in the Williams. Maybe just forgot to select his car or something of that nature. But he's currently on his outlap, and we have both Mercedes who look like they're struggling. They haven't posted any lap time so far, Maku.
Yeah, but they're both out. Yeah, maybe that's because of some corner cutting or exceeding the track limits too far. But yeah, let's see what Olus can do today. And another thing I wanted to ask is because you read out the championships standings, and the ones I've got here are a little bit different.
Oh.
I think, at least I don't know. I don't know if those are the really updated ones.
I got an image from last week when we were supposed to do this one. This unfortunately got delayed, but I got images from R7. So I would believe those to be the correct ones.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, we have still following Felipe Nunes at the moment on his Alfa Romeo, as Rupert has left the session. He was in P4, maybe he just disconnected, unfortunately for him. He got pole, I believe, last time out at the Circuit of the Americas. A bit of a slipperiness from the rear ends there of the Brazilian, who's actually, as I just said, on his own race, so I believe he's eager to have a good performance in the Alfa Romeo. The number 45 is going to cross over the line. Invalidated lap so far. It was a 12.1, I believe, which would put him in about 5th or 6th place. So a good, respectable pace, at least for now, from the Brazilian in these early stages. In the meantime, pole position managed to take on his third attempt the Mercedes 201.11.5, getting himself in third place. We have Barney, who just occupied that same position on the R's with a 111.4. Barney, that looking at his previous performances, he got a DNF unfortunately at Mexico, but he came back strong with a P5. He who has also achieved the podium only once this season with a third place finish. Do you have any... what do you expect from him today, Mako? Do you think he has the possibility of getting back to that podium?
From Barney?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think he could. I think now everyone's kind of just racing for the fun, and I think there's still something open in the championship, but I think there will be even more competition if there's not really something you have to take care of. And I think those drivers will really fight up there, and I think Barney has a chance of getting up there.
Yeah, well, that's good as Rupert gets back. I was also following the lap of Flexa Marcy. He had an awful mistake coming out of turn number 4. Almost lost the control of the car completely multiple times as he got out of the track and into the AstroTurf. That's quite slippery around there. So he not anything major other than a scare, but he was able to keep control of the car as he's retired from the session. Ooh, so maybe a crash there possibly due to the what's the word? Due to the tires overheating. Yeah, he lost the car. You can see there, sort of like Grosjean, I believe, in 2017 in the formation lap, even though that time it was raining heavily. This time around, Flexa Marcy in the dry puts the car in the wall. Felipe Nunes is able to get a first time on the board. Also, in his third attempt only, a 111.6 for the homeboy for today's race. We also have Toffee doing some laps. Currently his best 111.8. Toffee, who hasn't scored any points in the last 3 races, which is a bit of a shame. But on the other hand, the number 73, his teammate Mark, has gotten himself very good results, podiums in the last 4 races, a win at Mexico, and out of the last 6 races, he took podiums in 5 of them, only missing one of them. The only one where he didn't finish on the podium is because he not attended, unfortunately. So Mark, I guess you would agree with me, is also one of the contenders for this race. Is there any other driver that you think could have a chance at taking the win today?
Oh, today, yeah, you know, Speed Booster always has a chance. The last few races weren't that great from him, but of course he's our championship leader, and you know, let's watch what speed he's getting at. He's sitting currently in second with a 11.2, so maybe he can pull that off in the qualifying and the race too. And yeah, who else do we got? Who's on the grid right now?
Well, I would say
Yeah,
we have Black Panther, who's also showing decent pace. He's on the top of the table at the moment, the only driver to get into the 110s, and they did it on the mediums, if I'm not mistaken. So unless he just used less fuel, that might be a preview of things to come. Maybe he's just good at this track. Of course, a very special track. Lots of the corners have camber to it, so even in the setup, it's not really a normal track. You have to approach the corners a bit more carefully as well, because you can carry more speed through the corners, but once the camber evens out on the exits, if you are carrying too much speed or turning into harshly, you might have the front of the car be overtaken by the rear of the car, which is not necessarily ideal. So it is a bit of a special track in that way, and of course the drivers are going to have to adapt themselves to the different requirements of this track, if I can say so. In the meantime, looking at the table, Rupert came back after his disconnection. Only noticing now he has a pretty cool helmet, really like the design and the color scheme of it, but he brought himself up to P4 with a 111.5. He has gotten himself a pole in at least 2 races, I believe now, but he hasn't been able to convert that into a win. He got P2 once, he got P3 in another occasion, but he hasn't been able to get that win. Do you think there's something missing with the number 6 from the Red Bull?
It's yeah. I don't know. I think he can pull off something, and I think he wants to. And these are the last 2 races. I mean, it depends too on how good he's at this tracks. Currently being in P6 is not a bad start, but of course, he needs to climb at least 3 places up to get on the podium. And yeah, I think he is. Of course, he is able. He has shown us that he can race to the podium, and I think especially a win would be a very nice thing for him today.
Yeah, it would indeed. Certainly put him over the moon. He only arrived for the past 4 races. He made his debut only in the past 4 races. Actually, I know I'm going into pause mode, but I wanted to see the order of the tracks. And he only made his debut at Russia with the 6th place finish, then 2 podium appearances at Japan and Mexico, 4th place in USA. So he's just missing that little edge to put him on the top. Unfortunately, it hasn't aligned for him. It was just unstoppable. The Toro Rosso of Flexa Marcy was just unstoppable last time out. Very, very smart drive from him, making use of the slipstream to save his resources and his tires, while making the cars in front of him have to work their batteries to deny the advantage that Flexa would get in every DRS zone. And once those batteries were depleted, he just attacked and no one ever saw him again. So dominating fashion, very smart race from Flexa Marcy. His teammate though is just made his first lap on the medium, 7th at the moment with a 111 0.5 as velocity. I'm checking his data. He has gotten a few points finishes. He hasn't been able to get above 9th place in the championship. For now he's doing P7. Of course it is only practice, but maybe he has been able to practice a bit more, or maybe he just got more acclimatized to the track. Maybe the track just suits him better. So we could see a surprise maybe from the Toro Rosso driver today. In the meantime, Maku, do you see something that pops up to you looking at the standings at the moment, or at the time boards? Do you see anyone who might be doing a better performance than normal?
No, at the moment is everything looking kind of normal. We can mention that, for example, the times are now until 15th place. We have now all of the times in the 110s and the 111s. So basically, the drivers are pretty equal, as we've seen before. I think that's another really nice thing, because in a league, the more equal the drivers are, the more interesting the races will get. Because if some drivers are really good and then there are drivers that are not that fast as them, then in the races you won't have this much excitement and this much fun, because they just can't battle, because the fast drivers just drive those who are slower away. And here in this split, there's a really nice mix of people who has turned away. It was a Haas on the first year straight, just
Birkov.
locked up. And
Yeah, it's Birkov who is struggling to get back. Lost the rear again. Pole position just went by him. But yeah, what were you saying?
yeah, that we have in this split a really nice some really nice drivers who are nearly all of the same level, and so we get a lot of battles, a lot of very interesting scenes in race.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we are looking for here in the ORL. As we have Barney who just started this lap, so let's just follow him for a moment. Barney who just told has a good chance of getting at least a podium. He's showing some consistent driving throughout the races, some fast driving as well. So he's always in the cards for a win. If I recall correctly, he had a mistake or a penalty in USA that set him back a little bit. But yeah, otherwise he was having a good weekend up until that moment. As we have somebody else going wide, I believe it's a Williams into turn number 4, but he has rejoined the track. So let's just wait and see what Barney does. He's pushing at the moment, so maybe a qualifying simulation for him. He's pushing at the moment, improving by 7/10 as he gets now up the hill. Let's see what he does as he's going to cross over the line just now. He's going to set a lap time of 110.4, a 1 second improvement. I'm not sure that was what he's fully capable of in qualifying. At least compared to myself. I'm not sure how quick I am compared to these drivers, but I am also going to have a league race in Brazil soon, and I've been practicing it. I can do about mid-9s on the softs. I can do, mid-9s on the mediums. My best has been a 1.8.3 on the softs, so expecting, at least for the moment, to see these times drop a little bit if it is confirmed that these drivers are going for simulations, as we have Mark getting to the line. Maku.
Yeah, and as well as is Mweke, who is improving their time in Sector 2 by 8/10ths of a second. So let's look at her time, and it's a 110.8.
Yeah.
And Mark, we have Mark in the right. That's what you mentioned. With Mark now in first place with a 109.2.
Yeah, so the times are surely starting to drop. We have also Speed Booster. Oh, he's pushing at the moment on the soft, so looks like it's going to be another qualifying simulation. Black Panther gets out of the way. I think this is when the drivers are going to start pushing. The skies are darkening, so it might actually start raining and soon, and this is why the drivers, still with 10 minutes to go, are starting to go on some fast laps. Speed booster 19.7, half a second off of Mark at the moment. We also have Felipe Nunes, who is pushing as he's getting to the lake's descent, or the do lago in Portuguese. Let's see how it goes. It gets now uphill to turn number 6, Ferradura, or the shoehorn, and it is indeed raining, Maku. It is raining here in São Paulo.
It is. Do you see the first raindrops?
Yeah, on board with Felipe Nunes, he's in the second sector. I'm starting to see some rain. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
I
is
see them
raining.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's certainly going to spice things up. Pole position. Maybe it just has been simulating an entire stint. He has taken the softs for 14 laps. So I guess it's just preparing himself. The rain is intensifying as the drops of rain are starting to be visible on the perspectives of the drivers. If you go to T-Cam, the water is starting to splash into the visors. 9.4, despite the slippery track now. That's
and Felipe Nunes spins off in the first corner.
Yeah, that was on purpose, I believe. I believe he went on the throttle, actually. Yeah, I was on board with him. I think that was a bit on purpose. He's not doing any more running.
Be.
These drivers, though, they could go or try to go for intermediates, because it still might rain during qualifying or the race.
Yeah.
The drivers might have that information. We do not, but it would be certainly an interesting race if we had some wet racing action, Maku.
Yeah, I think, but it's also good for the drivers to have the rainy weather in the not in the qualifying, in the practice session, because and then and Felipe Nunes is spinning off again, but then they have time to practice also the wet and especially the transition from the dry surface to the wet surface. So they can practice that a little bit, and when they have to change, when the grip of the tires won't be enough to drive around the course anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes there are tracks, I feel like it changes from track to track. For example, Baku, I know the transition from dry to wet is very, very fast. At least from my experience. So it depends on track to track. So it is important to go out there and put some laps to just figure out where can you push, where you cannot push, as the track gets increasingly wet or slippery. As Emilio Sachs gets himself a tenth off of his personal best with a 110.7, so he's going to maintain that P7. We have Daryl, who's also pushing. He's in mode 5. Ooh, a bit of counter-steer reaction there from Daryl. And fortunately, he's able to keep the car on the track, but unfortunately, you won't be able to set a lap time, and that just shows how tricky the circumstances are getting at the moment. The track is deteriorating quite fast, Maku.
Yeah, and a lot of drivers are already in the pits, and I think they're just overthinking if they want to go out on intermediates, because if they were sure, they would have changed to intermediates already. But maybe they have some more information on the weather, or they just know that in the qualifying and the race it will not rain, so they just don't drive out for practice in the wet.
Yeah, in the meantime, Iceman, as you can see in the top right, as a bit of homage to Kobe Bryant. Member, yeah, he has #member forever, so paying homage to the sporting legend that unfortunately passed away recently. But he's taking his number 87 up to 11th, as he actually was able to improve by around 4 tenths. Despite the track conditions. So he's now on his cooldown lap. We have Black Panther, who's off the track. They're coming out of the dive of Mergulho, turn 11, and getting through Junção, the last braking zone of this track, as it's now full throttle ascend all the way into the start-finish straight and to end up his lap. Of course, he's going to abort that one, going to dive into the pits. Pole position is still going on. His lap is in mode 0. The track, his tires are gone at this point, and he's also in the wet, so he doesn't need to
Why
go
does he
this
do
long.
that?
He doesn't need. He's probably just trying out.
Yeah, probably. How
Yeah.
far you can go with the softs.
Yeah.
Lap?
Well, of course,
I
it
don't know.
depends on how smooth you are on the tires and on your
Yeah,
setup and
yeah,
all that.
sure.
Me personally, I can do qualifying on them and still take them to lap 15, 16. Just because I feel very comfortable and I'm also a bit smooth on the throttle, so I don't really make the tires spin too much. But maybe pole position is trying the same, just studying these red marked Pirelli tires, and is just going to try to get that come into an advantage of his come race time. Rupert is in the pits, but he has selected the intermediate tires. We have velocity on his out lap on the softs. Let's go on board with him, see what he can do as he gets himself into turn number 1. Of course, the Senna S's as he gets now downhill. Very tricky spots as well as you try to make those corners under traction, and in these circumstances exactly not ideal to have the Pirellis that he has fitted in his Toro Rosso. Needs to be very smooth there on the braking to avoid locking up. He even downshifted to third. Usually that corner is taken in fourth. Up the hill, probably going to fifth or fourth. Yeah, in the dry it's taken in sixth. Even this braking zone is very tricky for the drivers. You have, if you are not using the racing line, you have to do it basically on feel, because there's not many reference points. Even into this corner there are not many reference points for the drivers to utilize while navigating this track. Into the next one, you don't have the 100-meter marker sign on the right side of the track anymore. Maybe someone collided into it, but you have to brake at about 75 meters. Velocity obviously missing the marks, going wide, and that's going to be it really for his lap, as he's going to take himself through turns 13 and 14, which, well, there are officially corners, but and 15 as well. They are officially corners, but you basically drive as if they weren't there. You just go full throttle into the end of the lap. Rupert, I'm interested in seeing if he would actually go out there on the intermediates with 2.5 minutes to go. Looks like he's still getting a bit gun shy, and Daryl is on his out lap. His teammate Black Panther has retired from the session. Maku.
Yeah, and I just watched a lap of Mork, and it didn't seem that bad, but he's, I think 5 seconds was it behind of his time, but that's obviously because of the rain. And yeah, we have now a lot of drivers retiring because I don't know, did they crash out because they're all not in pit? But I
No.
don't think so. I think most of them just quit it because they didn't want it to practice anymore.
Yeah, it's basically invalid conditions at the moment. If it won't rain for qualifying or the race, it's a bit pointless to get out there under these conditions. So maybe they're just trying to incentivize everyone to retire so they could get on with it a bit quicker. Perhaps, as we have starting a recreation. So he's betting on himself starting from about 10th place. That is, maybe 13th. I'm not exactly sure, but he started way behind on those grid marks, so he's simulating the run into turn 1 from someone that's starting from about P10 to P15, so maybe he's not too confident on his abilities to get a good position in qualifying. Nonetheless, interesting to see a driver recreate the start procedures under these circumstances. Of course, starting in the dry is completely different from getting away in the wet. So yeah, quite interesting stuff, Maku.
Yeah, as we have now it's 2 drivers out there, Daryl and pole position. Pole position just picked another soft tire to take around the track, and Daryl has also a new soft tire. And I think we'll just wait 30 seconds for those two to complete their laps.
Yeah.
And pole position spins off in the first corner. It is maybe a little bit too wet now for the softs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Go ahead.
the DRS was just disabled, so I think the game also thinks it's too wet.
Yeah.
And pole
Exactly.
position retired.
Exactly. A good indication of when to swap tires is usually when the DRS is disabled or enabled. That means that in the delta for each lap, if the DRS is disabled, that means that in the delta the game calculates that the intermediates start having a quicker delta than the dry tires per lap. So if you are not sure, you just start trying to endure. You can just endure until of course it might be tricky, of course, because you are in the wet, but you can try to endure until the game tells you that the DRS is disabled, and dive into the pits at that point, so you are able to proceed with race on the intermediates without losing too much time. Of course, sometimes the drain just comes out very hard, and even if you don't pit right away, you are going to be caught doing an entire lap on tires that don't work. That happened to me, for example, at Baku. That's why I'm saying that at Baku the transition is very quick, and in a street circuit you might get caught out, and the walls aren't necessarily forgiving. So you need to be wary of that. In this track, the walls are sometimes very close to the track, but in the quickest. That was.
We have some.
Yeah, that was a mistake with the lobby.
Yeah.
I guess we are going to get invited again, but yeah, as I was saying, the walls aren't too close on this track. But there are some places, for example, the last corner. If you get out as Flex and Marcy, let us know. You can see, as you've seen a while ago, he just came out of the last corner, lost the car. He probably whiplashed on him. Probably he tried to correct the car 3 or 4 times and got himself in the wall. So you need to still be careful, especially if the track gets wet. So while we wait, any predictions, Maku, for the qualifying positions?
I think we will see the guys finishing in the top 5. It was like, I think Speed Booster, Mark, Barney, and
Black
who
Panther, I
were
believe.
Black Panther, yeah, and so on. I think those 5 will be up in qualifying too, but I think the positions will swap a little bit because Barney, I think, did his time on mediums, and I think he can pull out there at least 2 seconds, especially because of the qualifying mode of the engine, and also because you're taking less fuel than normally.
Yeah, well, while we wait, we are going... Oh, it got jumped into qualifying? This is weird. Something's very weird. Are we going to I guess we are going to restart the lobby.
Yeah.
Because it just turned into qualifying. Very weird. Very weird
Yeah,
stuff indeed.
Emilio advised the drivers before the practice to restart their games before the qualifying session.
Okay, so yeah, while we wait, we are just going to get ourselves the track guide, the official track guide, as we add Photon, the driver of the day at Mexico in the A split. He was the driver of the day, so of course he is the protagonist of the track guide for the following one. So just going to listen from the man himself how to do a lap here at the Interlagos circuit.
Our championship leader Photon takes a here at the circuit Sao Paulo, heading down into the center S, drop it down into third gear and ease your way back on the power. Very easy to lose your back end as you make your way out through the Curva do Sol onto the retta opposta. Get ready to spot your braking point into the left-hander of a turn 4, nice and late, about 60 meters, and hug the apex for as long as you can as you make your way back on the power and out of the Descida do Lago. And now into the double right-hander as you make your way through Ferradura and Laranjina, and now down into the tight right-hander of turn 8. Hold it as tight as you dare, and now drop it back down a gear temporarily before short shifting up and get ready for a yet another tight right-hander. Photon a little bit wide, but that won't cost him much time at all. Through Mergulo, and now just Junkao left nice and late onto the brakes. Don't take the curve as a Photon demonstrates, but you can use a curve on the exit. Now it's just a flat out run all the way through this long straight to complete your lap. Photon does a 107.5, and we'll have to see whether tonight anyone is capable of beating that.
Okay, so we are just waiting for the invite. As you had a lap there from the man himself, we are getting the invites. We are just waiting for everything to get restarted, and while we wait to do so, we are going to leave you guys in a little bit of an intermission while we wait for everything to get set up. So hopefully you enjoy my sick tunes, and see you in a little bit. everybody, and welcome back for the qualifying of what is expected to be an exciting race this afternoon. Round number 20 out of 21 of the ORL F1 2019 Tier 2 Championship. And what a better track for it than the São Paulo located Interlagos circuit, or also another name in Portuguese, the Autódromo José Carlos Pache, paying homage to a Brazilian F1 driver of old. So, looking at the track, 4.3 kilometers of tarmac are going to be navigated 36 times this afternoon. 15 turns the drivers are going to have to conquer to be able to take top spots. To do that, they need to use the C3s as the softs, the C2s as the mediums, or the C1s as the hard tires. In terms of the standings, Speed Booster, the newly crowned champion, is leading affairs with Iceman in P2, 190 points to his name. 6 more than Black Panther, as the best of the Williams driver occupies P3. Hypnotize and Mark completes the top 5, as we have Quicker with 99 points as the best of the Haas. Bird in P7 with 73 points, exactly 20 points ahead of a stalemate between Meyer and Barney, as both German drivers have 53 points each. After that, we have Money occupying the last of the top 10 spots for the Racing Point with 47 points to his name. Moving to the constructors, it is Williams who leads the standings with 281 points, following by the Brackley-based McLarens in P2, Mercedes. McLaren comes in P3, 4 points behind them. Renault in P4 with 182 points. Ferrari in 5th, followed by Red Bull in 6th, the Haas team in 7th, the Racing Point boys in P8, as Alfa Romeo and Toro Rosso occupy the last 2 spots of the grid. So with that, we can get ourselves started with the qualifying session for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Well, we already have some action on track, Maku.
Yeah, and especially Darren, who has currently track position. He was the first who got out of his box and is now setting his first hot lap. He's now in the trickier sector 2. His sector 1 time was a 1:71.50, and there was a little bit of a lock up there. But yeah, let's see what he can pull out and what the others can pull out, who are also all on hot laps. I think nearly everyone is behind him trying to get good lap, and maybe he gets, I don't know. I thought he could get a little bit of a tow from that Toro Rosso. As we've seen it in the A split, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, well, they did try to use that strategy, as Darrell gets himself a 109.8. Rupert smashes that to 109.1. We have Millie coming through in P3 to 110.0. A tad disappointing. Hypnotize in P2 for the time being. We have one of the McLarens coming now. It was Iceman with pole position for now with 108.9. After that, we have one of the Renaults. It is South who's coming through to P7, slowest time on the board. After that, we have Flexer Marcy gets a P2, and we have Flip Nunch coming through at the moment, P4 for him with a 109.1. We have the second McLaren of Weke coming through the last few corners. We also have Birkov in P3. Weke loses out the rear, and that's going to be the end of his lap. Mark just started his lap. Toffee is about to complete one of his own. Let's see how it goes, as he has the Williams of Black Panther right behind him, who's only about to start a lap just now. And let's see how it goes for Toffee. He got his lap invalidated. There's also a slow-moving Toro Rosso there, that is for velocity, I believe, after a mistake. The Speed Booster about to start a lap right behind. Let's see how that goes. The Speed Booster, yes, indeed, he just starts his lap. Weke comes back into the pits. Iceman is also back into the pits. The drivers are starting to get back into their garages. But for now, where is Mark? I believe Mark is close to finishing up a lap of his own. Yes, it is Mark and Speed Booster. Toffee is a little bit further back. So let's see what the number 73 does for the moment. He looked like he was going for the pits for a moment. He's going to cross over the line. Provisory pole for the number 73. A 108.5. Toffee coming through now. Does he have enough fuel to end this lap and then come back into the pits? He's pushing for the moment, even though I would say mode 4 of ERS would probably be more beneficial for that top end speed. He's going to cross over the line and it's going to be pit 12 for now. Speed Booster, the championship leader, just got purple through the second sector. A bit of a wobble coming out of Junção. Turn number 12, opening DRS, going uphill now into the start-finish straight, and it is P7 for the championship leader for the time being. Number 86 gets only 7th place. Maku, anything that pops to your eye, anyone that got a performance worth or noteworthy performance so far?
Nothing really particular so far, just that Velocity had taken his car out on some mediums, but just for one lap, and he's now sitting in the pits. So maybe he wanted to try something out. Let's see what he does, and we still need a few laps from Emilio Black Panther and another lap from Weke. But Weke still is already on the out lap, so we'll see there another one because the first one was invalidated.
Yeah, in the meantime, following with own boy Philippe Nunes, who is about to start a lap. It's just letting... Who is that? Is that Speed Booster? No, it's not Speed Booster. Yeah. It is South, who was on a flying lap, so he didn't want to get in the way. So it's just doing well to get out of the way of his rivals, not put them in a disadvantage. Let's see how it goes for Homeboy at the moment. Number 45 in his Alfa Romeo as he takes it across the start-finish straight. Let's go on board with the Brazilian as he gets to turn number 1. Tricky approach to it as he takes that apex very nicely, opens up the angle nicely. Ooh, a wobble though, coming downhill into turn 3, the Curva do Sol, Sun's Corner, as he now gets to DRS all the way into the lake's descent. The Descida do Lago is the name of corner number 4. Now getting through number 5, which is also tricky if you get wide coming out of 4. Now uphill into the shoe, the horseshoe, not sure exactly the word for it, Ferradura nonetheless. Then Laranjinha as he starts going downhill into Pinheirinho, uphill now into Bico de Pato, turn number 10. Needs to be smooth on the throttle coming out of it, otherwise he might find himself facing the wrong way. Now downhill once again through the dive and to Junção, about 50 meters away from it. He goes on the brakes, nice and composed exit from the Alfa Romeo as he just has to take it up through the gears. DRS wide open now in the Alfa Romeo, that Ferrari hybrid power unit deploying full horsepower, gets himself P3 for the time being with a 1.8.6. I do believe there was somebody else now behind him as the drivers are now starting to get their second laps done as Barney gets himself into P7, Millie in P11 for the time being. So some drivers who weren't able to improve this time around. Barney did get himself past Speed Booster. We have the Ferrari of Toffee as he's still lapping, he's still going for laps, he's on his 4th on those tires. Rupert is the next one. Yes, the pole sitter at the moment takes it to the pits. We do have Flexa Marcy, I believe, coming through the line now with a 1.8.6 P3 for the time being for the Toro Rosso driver. After that we have Emilio Sachs, possibly, not entirely sure what driver is that one, but he's coming through the line. Is it Mark? It possibly is Mark, but I believe he's only now starting a lap of his own. After that we have Iceman is in the pits, so it is Weke who's also in the pits. Now we have the Renault of South starting a lap of his own. We have Mark closing his one at the moment in the second sector. And let's see what he's going to do later on. We do have Millie, who is close to the end of his lap. He's actually going to take it into the pits. We have where is Black Panther? Black Panther is on an out lap. He has Velocity. No, it's not Velocity. It's Flex Marcy who's coming back into the pits. After that, we have South, who is going to complete a lap of his own soon, but not before Mark, who's further ahead in the track. Oh, he's actually aborting this lap. He's in mode 0. Unless he's bringing it to the pits. That's not... Yes, he's bringing it into the pits. So a mistake from the Ferrari driver gets him into the pits. We do have South soon getting himself through the line. We have the McLaren. Both Iceman and Weke are on their out laps. And after that, we have the second, or no, it's the Alfa Romeo of Emilio Sachs, exactly, who gets P10 with a 1:09.5. But we do have a bit of a torrent of drivers at the moment doing their laps. They aren't necessarily doing just one after the other. The drivers are a bit out of sync. Of course, they don't want to deal with traffic. I can understand that. As we do have Black Panther coming through. We also have one of the Mercedes in the second sector. I believe that is Hypnotized. We also have Speed Booster on his lap, just getting to the start of the third sector. Let's see what Black Panther does. The Belgium is going to cross over the line. Lap nullified for him. Unfortunately, Speed Booster is coming through now as we have yellow flags as it is South making that yellow flag condition in sector 2, just letting some of his rivals through. Speed Booster does not improve, so something went awfully wrong for him to be 4 seconds slower. Hypnotize is up next, is coming through. We have Daryl behind him, who's just starting a lap of his own. We have Mark on an out lap. We have Flip Nunge in the pit, so it is probably Mark just starting a lap. No, it's oh no, it was his teammate coming into the pits. We do have Speed Booster on a lap. We do have McLaren also just finishing up his lap. That is Weke with a 1:09.7 for the time being. After that, we have Flex Marcy. No, it's his teammates. Velocity just wrapping up his out lap as he just starts another attempt on the softs. We have up next, it is Daryl perhaps? No, it is Black Panther, who this time around, on his second time of asking, gets himself a 1:08.88 seconds. So very amusing lap time there, I would say, for the Belgian driver. As Mark starts his lap, he has Barney on the mediums, interestingly, right behind him. So that's surely going to be an interesting one to follow, as we have Mark trying to take the fight to Rupert, as they aren't too far apart at the moment. It is about 28 seconds, if my mental maths are correct. Not 8, but 26, I believe. 26 thousandths of a second separating both of them, if my mental maths are correct, as Mark is going to take it through the trickier second sector. At the moment, the Ferrari seems composed as it approaches turn number 10. Now he needs to get smoothly on the power down the hill into turn 11. If you touch that inside curb, sometimes it might unsettle the car too much, as it gets now down to third gear and now uphill through the last 3 corners of this Brazilian layout. Turn 13, 14 and 15 are basically non-existent. Nonetheless, Mark a bit weaving there. Not sure if he's exactly going to gain time by doing that. As he crosses over the line, gets himself on top. 1:08.4 for the Italian. Very nicely done. There were 2 drivers behind him who came into the pits. We have, it's not Black Panther, it's his teammate, I believe Daryl, who's taking himself into the pits. We have Emilio Sachs on his out lap. We have Toffee about to close out an attempt, and it is a non-improvement, 3 seconds slower, so also a mistake there from the driver. We have Weke in the pits. His teammate, though, just started a lap of his own. We do have both Toro Rossos on the track. Flex Marcy, best lap time 1:08.6, also very close to that top 3. Velocity though has got his lap nullified, so not exactly ideal conditions for the Toro Rosso driver, who haven't gotten himself a competitive lap time, I apologize, on the board just yet. Eagle, who's also in the pits, having a bit of trouble without setting a lap time just yet. We have both Ferraris, I believe there is no thirst. The color is very similar to me. It is Felipe Nunes behind Toffee. Toffee is coming into the pits. Felipe Nunes is preparing a lap of his own. Iceman just looming in the background in the 87, getting himself now uphill as he's about to wrap up a lap of his own. Let's see how it goes for the McLaren driver. Is going to cross over the line. Is going to do better. Yes, he is. 3/10 quicker, in fact. A 1:08.661. Very close from P3 all the way to a P6. All of them in the same tenth of a second. So things are starting to get heated, are starting to get competitive on this track. Felipe Nunes, the homeboy for today, just started his lap, just did purple in the first sector, so he certainly, if he keeps that pace up, he's certainly going for a good lap. He's probably going to be happy about. Emilio Sachs is going to complete another attempt of his own. Can he do better than that 12th place he occupies at the moment? 109.5 is his best. He's going to lap faster. Yes, he is. 3/10 quicker. Emilio Sachs up to P11, just a tad short of that top 10, but still best of the rest. Felipe Nunes getting back to the other Alfa Romeo. Looks like, yes, he has a mistake somewhere. He's almost parked his car. Some of his rifles just get through him, and it is Emilio Sachs and Felipe Nunes both coming into the pits at this point. Darrell just started his lap. He has his teammate right ahead of him, Black Panther. Ahead of him is just trying to check who that is. It's Toffee, perhaps? Not exactly sure. No, it's not the Ferrari. It is another car in red, which in the minimap I can't quite tell who that is. Black Panther going wide, allowing his teammate to get through him, as we have Rupert getting on a lap. Flexa Marcy, I believe, is right behind him. Yes, it is. And we have his teammate Barney about to complete a lap. He gets P7 on the board with a 1:08.8. Very close, very identical lap to Panthers so far. We have a Haas coming through. That is Birkhoff, 10th place so far. Iceman retires from the sessions. He doesn't have time to improve on his previous attempt. We have Darrell about to complete a lap of his own. Can he improve? No, he does not improve, so he's going for a quick lap. Now we have Speed Booster about to start a lap of his own. South is still in the pits. We have Felipe Nunes, which I believe is Toffee. As Felipe Nunes gets pole, so on his second attempt it took him 2 tries, but he gets himself on pole as the checkered flag is shown to the driver. Toffee is still able to get going on another attempt, 4th time on those tires. Not necessarily the ideal conditions, I would say, but he's carrying on with it. Rupert coming through the last corner now. Let's see how it goes for him. Flexa Mars is going to cross the line first. He's going to improve. Yes, he does. P2 for him. Rupert with a mistake comes into the pits. 8.4 for the Toro Rosso. Looking at the other Red Bull, we have Barney, who has someone right behind him. He's letting Birkhoff come through. I believe Birkhoff is also coming to the pits. Yes, he is. Black Panther is pushing at the moment. His teammate Darrell is going to complete his lap before the Belgium, though, the Belgian driver. Darrell crosses over the line. P10 for him with 109.0. Let's see if Black Panther can do better than the 8th place he occupies at the moment. Yes, Speed Booster gaining slipstream on him all the way into the line, and none of them improve. Black Panther also does not improve. Not entirely sure what happened, but nonetheless is not going to be able to do that or what we wanted. But yeah, exciting stuff on the track as the session has run out of time. And Maku, do you have anything pointing out by looking at the table?
Not really, just again, oh, there's something. Barney is a little bit down the board, I think. I expected him to finish a little bit high, and yeah, well, it's a performance. He's just 3,000
Sorry, Mako, you are lagging. You just got off on Discord for me. Not entirely sure. Yeah, you can see it just left the session, so it just disconnected. Unfortunately, we are going to carry on as we get ourselves to the final results. Nunes and Marksy. You can see there 76 thousandths of a second separating the Mark and Rupert, very close to each other, as the Ferrari gets P3, the Red Bull P4, Speed Booster in P5, Iceman in P6, Barney P7, Black Panther P8, Hypnotize P9, Daryl closes the top 10, then Birkov is the first driver to have a free selection of tires for the race, Emilio Sachs in P12, South in 13th, then Millie, Toffee and Weke as Velocity follows in P17. I believe we lost out the Mercedes of pole position, and I don't believe we lost someone else. There was Eagle, I believe, who didn't set a lap time, so maybe disconnected and wasn't able to get back in. So very unfortunate stuff for those two drivers today. Getting through to the race, the skies are a bit cloudy, but nothing too threatening at the moment, as I'm going to try and invite Maku to the session. Just give me a moment. Going to invite him to the lobby. There he has it. And once he's able to get back, he'll surely get back into the commentary booth. In the meantime, we're just waiting for the drivers to sort out with their race engineers the optimal strategies. Of course, if you start in the top 10 with the softs, you are surely going to try to make the pit stop between the laps 13 and 15 to swap for a set of mediums to take to the end. Of course, if you start outside the top 10, you might try to go for that inverse or that reverse strategy, which I'm going to be honest, I don't really like those reverse strategies, because you are on the other tire when your car is the heaviest on fuel, and then you get undercut by, so in terms of lap time, unless you are just more talented or maybe just faster around the circuit in particular, you are going to lose time to your rivals on the softer compounds. You might actually get involved in very long battles because you are constantly dealing with rivals on softer tires, and then on top of that you are getting undercut, so you lose even more time to your rivals. Of course, you do have the softest tire at the end, but the time you lost in the battles throughout the first half of the race might cost you those positions, and we do have three drivers on that reverse one-stop, Maku.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I think the reverse strategy is something interesting and something that many people are. I don't know if I just got the things. Some drivers are going for it, but yeah, I think if you go to the reverse strategy, then you will have to make sure that you're good at overtaking, because that's what it is. What you have to do at the end, because in the beginning you just lose places mostly because your tires are not that fast as the tires of the other ones.
Yeah, exactly. Well, looking at the table, you can see, fortunately, Eagle and pole position were actually able to get through to the race, despite not starting or not taking part in the qualifying procedures. Felipe Nunes, own boy, on pole in front of his own crowd. Is he going to be able to convert that into a win? That's what we're going to find out, as we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go for the Brazilian Grand Prix. A good start from Felipe Nunes, good start from Marcy. We have a McLaren. There's contact at the back. I believe that was Iceman. Yes, there's also Speed Booster dropping a few places. There's contact as well at the back, and we have the safety car on the track. Maku, can you tell us what happened back there?
Oh, not really. I just saw. I think it was Mealy got squished and then turned a little sideways and was pushed by the others across the track, and then we had a lot of. I think Velocity was involved. Nearly everyone back there. Toffee, Mealy, Velocity, pole position, Weke. all those 4-5 drivers have now how's it called? Why do I forget it? Front wing damage, yes. And need to go to the pits.
Yeah,
And
Birkov is also one of the drivers who has to go through the same. The number 24 had a good start, claimed 2 positions, but he also claimed front wing damage. So let's see what drivers are going to take the opportunity to come into the pits. As you said correctly, we have pole position, we have velocity with damage in the front wing. We have Millie, I believe he has his front wing intact, but he did lose quite a few positions. Toffee also has a front wing intact, and Daryl just trying to take a last look. Millie does have damage, and Daryl has his front wing completely gone. So if the others might try to nurse the damage into the actual pit stop, yeah, Daryl has really no other choice, just hoping that he doesn't miss the front wing too much. Okay.
I think there was nearly a crash entering the pit lane.
Ooh.
Oh, and Doug. Oh.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate. That's very, very unfortunate for the Williams drivers. There is a stacking, I believe, for the Williams team. Yes, Iceman comes through. Weke also has to completely replace his front wing, and he is getting held up as well. Not entirely sure what went on there. Maybe some lag, but he did replace it. Iceman rejoins the track on the arts that lasts the entirety of the Grand Prix. As he is in P14. Emilio Sachs, also a victim of the chaos of the opening lap in P15, also on the yards. Velocity comes out of the pits. On the soft side, he might have collided with the wall on the exit. No, well, he might have collided, but at least his wing is intact. Darrell also on the mediums now, as well as Millie and Weke, as the McLaren occupies the last spot. Getting back to the front. Oh, Emilio Sachs getting a penalty there for corner cutting, apparently. So maybe the game was a bit too harsh. Maybe he can protest that one with the stewards. Not exactly sure. Let's see how that one goes. Felipe Nunes, though, oh boy, started on pole, maintains the front of the pack. Speed Boosters Delta is trolling us a little bit, as he is, according to the game, over a minute behind the car ahead. Okay, finally updated. Barney doing some weaving there, despite still having about 2 laps until the safety car comes in. Already warming up those tires. Doesn't want for sure to let those temperatures drop down. South, though, got himself a lot of positions with all of the chaos. 3 places gained. Eagle from almost last up to P7, pole position. Eagle in pole position from the last row, both gain 7 positions, and they are right on the doorstep of the points paying positions. How about that for a great start, Maku?
Yeah, I think in these troubles at the beginning, they had maybe the chance to overtake a lot of drivers, and yeah, the safety car is still out. I think it will come in next round, or yeah, should be coming in next round. And but that's another thing that was patched, where that Codemasters patch, that the safety car will come out more often, especially in those incidents, because sometimes I think we remember there were severe incidents and the safety car just won't came out.
Yeah, that was something Codemasters needed to improve upon. They did improve. It might be a slight bit overtuned though now, as the safety car is announced to be coming in this lap. As you can see, the lights on that Mercedes are already off, so drivers just need to let cars drive off this distance, and they need to be careful. They truly need to be careful because of course the leader controls the pace. As there you have it, we are soon to get the restart. We have green flag racing right now. The Grand Prix, the Brazilian Grand Prix, is back underway. Flags and Marcia in P2 mark, and Speed Booster are coming to blows. He overshoots the corner there. Speed Booster tries to retaliate, has to settle for P5 pole position, overtakes Eagle on the restart, as we have Daryl Velocity also in a swap of positions. Iceman drops down into the pits. I believe he collided with the car in front of him, so he's back into the pits. Flip Nunes still leads from Maxi, Rupert, Mark, Speed Booster, Black Panther, Barney, Hypnotize, Birkov and South as they close the top 10. Anything noteworthy, Maku?
Yeah, Iceman is in the pits because he has had the collision in while the restart, because they were going really slow. So yeah, there were, I think, 2 collisions, and South just got a little bit off the track.
Yeah,
Took a
exactly.
little bit
Yeah,
good grass with him.
pole position took advantage of that and is right into the points. 9 positions gained from him. Last up to P10 in 4 corners is putting the pressure on the medium tire runner of Birkov. The gap is already a sizable one. 2.9 seconds between Birkov and Hypnotize. Felipe Nunes gets the best lap time so far, and Birkov actually comes into the pits, gets a 5-second penalty for exceeding the pit lane speed limit. But there you have it. Pole position already caught up in the standings with his teammate Hypnotize, who has already lost contact with the group ahead, but pole position now needs to push if he wants to challenge his teammate. Daryl and Emilio Sachs coming to blows as the Williams overtakes the Alfa Romeo, gets a bit out of shape coming out the exit. Will Emilio Sachs pull the trigger on his rival? He's looking at the inside, not going to commit to it. He's going to stick in P14 for the time being. Looking back at the front, Flexa Marcy had an amazing job last time out from 2nd and 3rd place, controlling the gap, managing his resources compared to the leader of the groups he was always in. Can he deploy the same strategy this time around? Felipe Nunes has opened up the gap. Rupert is going to start to smell blood, I am sure. He's going to try and look to pounce on the winner of the last Grand Prix. Rupert, who got pole, wasn't able to convert it into a win. He's going to certainly try to claim another podium. Rupert, who's gotten himself 2 podiums in the last 3 races, 3 top 5s in the last 3 races as well. So he's certainly very fast and is going to make that known today. In the meantime, looking further back, Black Panther putting the pressure on the championship leaders, 6 tenths apart from each other, as the gap might be trolling me a little bit, as Black Panther is not as far away from Speed Booster. Speed Booster is from Mark, yet the gap is looking like the same, which is not exactly verifiable according to what we see on our monitors. Daryl still in P13 on those mediums, trying to make them work. He already got past Emilio Sachs. Let's see if he's able to dispose of the Haas of Eagle in front of him. Lap 6 now, the RS is going to start to be enabled to the drivers to utilize, and now of course mode 4 of the RS, and the DRS right as he tries to get himself back into contention for that P1. Felipe Nunes giving him the slipstream also helped, as Flexa Marcy gets the fastest lap of the race so far. So the fastest man on the track at the moment brings the gap down to about 4 tenths on the Alfa Romeo, who overshoots the corner there a little bit. Rupert is too far behind to pounce on his rival. Looking further back, some drivers that might be swapping positions. Velocity getting closer to Emilio. Nonetheless, he missed the apex there into turn 4 and has to settle for P15. Now, Maku, what do you have to say about the action on track at the moment?
Yeah, cool. Right now there's nothing really changed, because the group at the back is still fighting. Have still nearly the same. They're near the same distances apart each other, and the only thing is that I think a pole position is slowly closing in on Hypnotize. So basically, Hypnotize is a little bit slower, and I think he's falling back generally a little bit down the order. So basically, he's not dropping positions, but he's a little bit too slow for the group who's closing in on him. And yeah, the front group is now really getting the distance to the back one.
Yeah, exactly. Mark has lost contact with the top 3. Speed Booster is going to look to pounce if Mark doesn't get on with his race. Velocity had a chance to get closer to Emilio Sachs into turn 1. Sachs had a bit of a lockup, wasn't quite able to close much of that gap. You can see Mark has lost contact. He needs to have a stellar sector 2 if he wants to get back on the DRS range. He needs to push himself a little bit. He's right on the edge of missing out on the drag reduction system. Mode 5 under acceleration for the Ferrari driver, getting uphill now to mode 4 for that maximized top speeds. DRS wide open at the back of the 73. Looking further ahead, Flex Marcy getting ever closer to the rear diffuser of the Alfa Romeo. There's a mistake from him, has to correct the car. Not something too major. Rupert wasn't able to pounce on him. Nonetheless, he's closer now to the Red Bull, to the Toro Rosso. Then the Toro Rosso is to the Alfa Romeo, and into turn 4 nothing really happens. Darrell and Emilio Sachs come to blows once again. Darrell has the advantage, but he loses out the rear and is in the wall. Massive amounts of damage in the front wing of the Williams, as he's going to actually retire from the race. That might bring out the safety car. That's actually not exactly ideal, because he's going to... No, he's actually going to park the car to the side. I thought this Ghost was going to be lapping until the end of the Grand Prix. But yeah, he is out of the race. Darrell's trying to make those mediums work. He just ran out of grip there into turn 3, Maku.
Yeah, that's possible. But what I saw the last lap and what I see this lap is that velocity is always going a little bit wide through the corners, and at first I thought it was because he was that close to Emilio, and there was kind of trying to avoid. Oh, with a lot of oversteer in corner 13, and yeah, I think now he's driving the corners a little bit strange with a little bit a late apex, something like that. Yeah.
Well, he's not making it work if he wants to get past Emilio. Those softs against the arts, they should have the advantage. He's not really making it work though. Flex Marcy though, he had a mistake somewhere because he has lost a tremendous amount of time to Felipe Nunes. Rupert with a mistake, he turns into the slide, but that might not be enough for him to retain that P3. Mark gets around the outside. Great defense from Rupert, adapting to the circumstances, and maintains that P3. He's even on the DRS range of Flex Marcy, even though he does give a bit of breathing room to the Toro Rosso, who is not going to have the DRS at his disposal. Speed Booster takes advantage of all the mistakes of the cars in the top 5 to get closer to Mark, but we're going to jump into Rupert because he's going to get to DRS on Flex Marcy. Let's see how much he closes in by the end of the straight, and he gained at least a 10. Flex Marcy not really taking the tightest of approaches to turn 1. Let's see, coming out of turn number 3, who gets the best exit. Rupert is going to get to DRS once again. Mode 3 on the battery charge as well, as he closes in a little bit further on Flex Marcy. He's going to keep putting up the pressure, but he also needs to not make mistakes because Mark and Speed Booster are right there to take advantage of it, and now even Black Panther has been able to get up to the rivals. So we have a group between P2 and P6 that is certainly going to spice the race up. Maku, at the back, do you see anything? I know Toffee is pressurizing south. How is that one going?
Exactly, but Tuffy is still a little bit too far away from south to really attack, and all the other drivers behind Tuffy, except maybe for Eagle, have now that much distance to each other that there's no real overtaking possible. So I think we just have to wait until the next phase of pit stops comes in, and yeah.
Wow. Well, looking back at the front, Rupert is now the man with the fastest lap on the board, 111.3, as he's hunting down Flex Marcy. Got a bit of a wobble there coming out of turn 3, 310 separating the two of them. Marcy is vulnerable now, he won't be able to get to DRS, Rupert is, but even though Flex Marcy doesn't have DRS, he keeps himself in P2, and Rupert might be able to put the squeeze on the resources of the Toro Rosso, just like the Toro Rosso driver did at USA, to his rivals. Mark dropped out a little bit to Rupert, speed booster in P5 already a second off, so we have Mark and speed booster not really on the same pace as Rupert and Marcy, and then of course our own boy Felipe Nunes driving away a little bit, even though we lost 4 tenths in the past 2 laps to the Toro Rosso driver. Maku, and anything else to point out?
Yeah, Tuffy ran a little bit wide, and now Eagle is right on his tail, and of course he lost with that maneuver a little bit time to south. But I think Tuffy is a little bit faster than Eagle, so basically he can drive now. Oh no, he has left the session. So let's see some connection problems. Let's see how the Ghost drives on, and hopefully he can reconnect to take over its Ghost again.
In the meantime, we had Flex and Marcy having a bit of trouble with the transition between turns 1 and 2, and Rupert had to lift off to avoid the rear diffuser of the Toro Rosso, couldn't quite get the move done into turn number 4, so he's going to have to stick in his place. Toffee and Emilio Sachs in the meantime swap positions, and Emilio Sachs now might have a great run on Eagle. He doesn't have the RS, it's the hard versus the softs. The hard looks like they're starting to get an advantage now. The number 2 gets through and up into P11, and Maku looks like the hard tires are starting to come into their own as the softs are starting to come into their limits. Maku.
Yeah, that could be possible, especially because it's lap 13 and the soft should slowly degrade now, and it should be now possible to see that the softs are not the best tires anymore, and then drivers like Emilio Sachs have their advantages, and Toffee rejoined, so basically you can take over his car again. But let's see when Eagle and Velocity came in, because Eagle just nearly pushed Velocity off the tracks, so yeah.
Okay, well, in the meantime, we have another round of the Rupert-Marcy fight. Rupert is going to try to take the inside. There's contact between the two of them. Mark has to take avoiding action, but claims P3 speed booster is too far away. In the meantime, South and pole position has a big mistake. After all his great job to avoid the chaos in the first lap and claim some positions, he threw that all away. Is back down to P13. Emilio Sachs takes himself into P10, so good recovery from him. Trying to take a look at the position changes. He's gained 2 positions from the start. Eagle, 7 places, is now the driver with the most positions gained. Before it was pole position, but that mistake really set him back. Looking back at the front, Mark 1 second away from Flex and Marcy. Rupert right behind the Ferrari. I do think that could have been a bit naughty there from Flex and Marcy, as he's taking himself into the pits, and the Red Bull is going to follow. So interesting to see if Rupert has front wing damage after that contact. No, he does not. He's going to swap onto the mediums. He's going to force Marcy to wait. Yes, he does. He does. No, was that lag? I'm not sure. The camera is trolling me a little bit. Yeah, that was lag. So Rupert wasn't able to hold Marcy up, and Marcy is going to continue on his merry way. It's going to be a battle now down the straight into turn number 4. South carries more momentum. They are side by side. Let's use more stubborn out of the two. Rupert brakes later and crucially keeps himself ahead of South, because of course he really didn't want to have a slower car between him and Marcy throughout the entirety of that second sector. With this though, Marcy is going on the undercuts, trying to make an attack on that first place held by a homeboy Felipe Nunes, Maku.
Yeah, and Brookhoff just overtook Eagle, his team partner, and is now 15th. So, but they're pretty far off, because I think they're already on their second stop, and Barney gets another 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's kind of a pretty avoidable penalty, and you just need to take a little bit care, because it's not that hard to get down to the pit speed limit, and I think the half of a second you lose if you brake too early is not really that important.
Yeah, in the meantime, Felipe Nunes rejoins still with what I would say to be the net lead of the Grand Prix. Left Flex and Marcy is much closer. 3 tenths now is the difference between the Toro Rosso and the Alfa Romeo. Rupert right behind, still 1 second, and Mark dropped down to P7. So Rupert with that undercut was able to reclaim net P3. We also have Hypnotized, Black Panther, and Speed Booster, who are now the top 3 at the moment. They haven't pitted yet, and they are surely going to come into the pits shortly. Hypnotized, of course, he was in the midfield, about 8th place, I believe, before the round of pit stops. Who wobble there from Hypnotized, so he's starting to struggle on those softs. He surely needs to get himself into the pits for a replacement. Speed Booster carries on as Black Panther is going to the garage where his pit crew is waiting to service him. Let's see how that one goes, how quick the pit stop is. Soft out and medium ins. Rupert with the fastest lap. Ooh, and Marcy is going to attack Felipe Nunes around the outside of turn 1. Beautiful maneuver there. Gets past the Brazilian. Let's see if he gets back the favor. Gives back the favor as he has to slip him, and the DRS going to hold himself around the outside of turn 4. There's contact with Flax and Marcy. Ooh, and Rupert has to take avoiding action there. There's contact between them. There's some carbon fiber flying. I bet it was from the front wing of Flax and Marcy, who was in the meantime back in control of his car. But no, the carbon fiber isn't from the Toro Rosso. It is probably from Rupert. Yes, it is. That front left end plate of the front wing is missing, and in a track like that, it's really going to leave him vulnerable. But maybe a bit of karma there, as Marcy had that touch with Rupert. Now it's Felipe Nunes having the touch on Marcy. Marcy really getting the worst end of the deal there, Maku.
Yeah, and Emilio just did a beautiful overtake on Velocity. Especially a little bit astounding that Velocity is still out on the softs for now 15 laps. Now he's going into the pits, right? But Emilio Sachs did a beautiful overtaking maneuver the previous lap into the first corner of the Senna SS, into the inside.
Well, that's certainly exciting to see, as he's showing he didn't get the greatest qualifying, but he's surely having a good race. Now Mark gets past Rupert, taking advantage of the damage that the Red Bull is sustaining at the moment. Hypnotized got himself into the pits. He comes out in P9, and Speed Booster is still going on his merry way on. He's really feeling very comfortable on those softs, I believe. Again, I am also practicing for a league race around here. I'm going to have one soon, and I do understand the feeling. I also feel very comfortable even towards the last laps of the soft stint, so he was able to still get good pace on them, or at least he feels that way. He gets himself into the pits now. He's going to get a massive undercut from his rivals, but he's going to have at least 2 to 3 lap fresher medium tires. Felipe Nunes, of course, is coming through to take the position. Mark, I believe, is also getting the position from him. It's going to be interesting to see now if Speed Booster keeps himself ahead of Rupert. It's going to be a race now as he emerges back into the track. Black Panther also ahead of Speed Booster and Flex and Marcy. Despite his spin, the undercut was so strong that he still gets a P6. So the undercut was very, very strong, but he now has the fresher tires, and Flex and Marcy not only has the oldest tires, he also had that spin, so those are probably a bit damaged. So he's surely going to start putting the pressure on the Toro Rosso. In the meantime, Birkov and Velocity are swapping positions. Birkov is forced to concede the position. He is on those old mediums. So there is the swap of positions. Velocity up to a P13. Black Panther is going to put the pressure on Rupert now. Flex and Marcy behind them, and Speed Booster also getting the DRS in this group. I do believe that Williams is too close to get the jump on his rival. Looking further back though.
Emilio down this straight.
Yeah,
Beautiful overtake.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Barney and Emilio Sachs were close to each other, but look at that. Felipe Nunes gets a penalty. 3 seconds of penalty to Felipe Nunes. Felipe Nunes is only 2 seconds away from Mark, so that could be interesting towards the end of the race. He's not giving up, is Emilio Sachs. Despite his older tires, he's still charging the inside of Barney without the effect he wanted. Rupert, in the meantime, lost the position to Black Panther. Maku, did you see that? Was that a mistake from the Red Bull?
And I couldn't see that the real. I just saw they swapped, and yeah, I don't know right now. We'll have to watch the situation a little bit. I think.
Okay. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, in the meantime, South and Weke very, very close to each other for that 11th place. Velocity, of course, is also closing in on that duo. So let's see how things develop in the laps to come. Emilio Sachs already lost almost a second to Barney, which is understandable. But getting back to Rupert, who has already lost over half a second to Black Panther, is really struggling. Booster, though, is going on the inside of Lexa Marcy. There's puffs of smoke coming from both front tires of both cars. And Speed Booster, who getting there a bit of contact with Marcy. Marcy gained a tremendous amount of time on him due to that. So Speed Booster is going to have to stay put in a P6 for the time being. And looking back, South and Weke swapping positions as Weke comes into the pits. So that is going to be done for that battle. Velocity is still very close to South. Not exactly close enough, as he didn't get the best of exits out of turn 3. Not exactly close enough to go for the overtake, despite getting the RS and that allowing him to still be in contention. But look at that, pole position, brave maneuver on the inside of Birkov. Birkov goes for the switchback though, beautiful defense as the Haas keeps himself in P13. Pole position, overshot himself as he probably didn't expect the speed he was going to carry with the DRS and the slipstream. Braked too late, went on the brakes too late, and Birkov says thank you very much, retakes that P13. Looking back to the front, Lexa Marcy putting the pressure on Rupert. Is he going for a lunge? There's contact with Rupert again, a bit over optimistic perhaps from Marcy, as Rupert gets a 3-second time penalty. Not sure as to what extent that was because of the contact with Marcy, but yeah, Marcy getting a bit too desperate perhaps. Maybe he's losing control of his emotions and is being a bit too aggressive perhaps, trying to get back to the places that he once occupied, Mako.
Yeah, but that somehow belongs to the racing course, a little bit of passion. You know, you want to take that place, and sometimes you just need that little kick to actually do your overtaking maneuver. And in that case, of course, it was a little bit too much because there wasn't really a gap, and he tried though. But I think sometimes you need that little kick to just do it right now, and maybe it'll work.
Yeah, well, yeah, that little extra is also always needed if you want to win some races. Of course, there's always a time and place for everything, and Marcy was just a bit too optimistic that time around. Maybe this time of asking, though, is going to be a bit more successful. He's certainly more alongside the Red Bull. Close enough for Rupert to warrant him some space. Emilio Sachs gets rid of those hards. He's going to swap for a set of softs. And look at that, Marcy alongside Rupert is going to pick the outside into turn 4. Is there going to be contact this time around? Last time around, these two were side by side. There was contact. Rupert and Marcy keeping it extremely clean this time around. Rupert into turn number 6. Goes wide though. I was going to say he's going to keep P4, but a mistake from Rupert. Probably related to the lack of downforce on that side of the car, on the left side of the car. And he drops out to the Toro Rosso. Now he has a Speed Booster to contend with, Maku.
Yeah, I think that will be an exciting battle, especially because Speed Booster can surely climb up a few places, and I think these front rows, Philippe News had I think over 2 seconds to Mark, so Mark is closing in too. So yeah, let's see. And the other thing is that Philippe still got 3 seconds of penalties, as FX Rupert is overtaking. Oh, beautiful battle through the Senna S's and still side by side onto the straight. And Rupert tries to get a little bit of a toe because Marcy has the DRS, because obviously he crossed the DRS detection line after Rupert. And with that, Marcy stays in front, and maybe Speed Booster can use this opportunity in the next corner.
Ooh, Flip Nunes takes another penalty. Sorry to interrupt you, but he takes another penalty. Birkov is into the pits, and Weke is out of the race. Yellow flags in sector 2. Can't quite tell where it is. I believe it's right on the outside of this corner.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. He lit up the rear tires, went into that wall, and raced over for the McLaren driver. The McLarens who've had an horrid race this afternoon. A very tough day in the office for both McLaren drivers. But the show must go on. Marcy is already pulling away from Rupert and is coming into the hands of Speed Booster, starting to smell some blood. Mode 3 of DRS. DRS also open in the rear of the Renault. Is going to go for it. No, not yet. Marcy gets wide though into turn 1. Rupert almost having a bit of contact there. Millie also with a penalty, but Mark, I believe, is in a good position to take the win today because Felipe Nunes already has 6 seconds of penalties. Let's see how that one goes as we head on to turn 4 again. Rupert close, but not close enough to make the move stick. So P5 for him, and Speed Booster has also to settle for a P6. Velocity is now going to attack South. He brakes later than the Renault, takes the inside approach into turn 1. Let's see how it goes. There's a bit of contact between the two of them, bit of argy-bargy there. South ultimately has to concede the position. Will he give the favor back as he's now having the DRS over Velocity? Didn't have as good enough of an exit out of turn 3. Goes on the brakes, also on the grass there. Pretty lucky to not lock up the tires or go for a spin, but he doesn't have the weapon which to respond with, so he has to settle for a P12. In the meantime, Emilio Sachs, is pretty much in no man's land. He came out of the pits out of his hard stint in P9 and is now in the softs. Is going to take for the end. He has 16 seconds over to Hypnotize though. I'm not exactly sure if he's going to make it work, as Booster is finally preying down on Rupert. They're going side by side once again into turn 4. It's the number 85 versus the number 6. The 85 gets himself around the outside, not quite able to make it stick. He's not giving up though just yet. He knows Rupert is vulnerable in that corner because of the damage. He's going to stick it around the outside, the inside rather, and is he going to get the answer from the Red Bull? Yes, he is. Breaks later, and they are still side by side. It's going to be a traction battle won by the Renault. Speed Booster claims P5, but look at that, a tremendous amount of time lost to Flex and Marcy. Already 2 seconds separating P5 from P4. Maku.
They were a great battle, nearly through like half of sector 2 side by side. That's always something that's very nice to look at.
Yeah, in the meantime, we're going for another round. Rupert is not giving up just yet, selling the dummy there for Speed Booster, but then Speed Booster maybe being a bit naughty there. I believe Rupert already is front wing on the side part of the Renault. They managed to avoid contact, but Speed Booster probably should have given more space on the inside, as he's going for another attempt, this time on the outside. Ooh, turns into whirl, he has to correct the car, goes wide again, and Rupert isn't necessarily in the conditions to be pushing himself like that because of that front wing damage. He's running the risk of making it even worse, but once again, he looked strong in qualifying, but despite still having a good pace, it's very respectable this 6th place is occupying. A bit of a disappointing effort from Rupert today. Maku was, he probably was hoping to get a podium. He is at the moment in 6th place, right in front of his teammate.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, Mark is still going in on Felipe Nunes. The gap is maintained at the moment. I don't think Mark needs to worry too much. We have less than 10 laps to go. There's 6 seconds of penalties for the Brazilian. So Mark looks like he's going in good shape for his 4th win of the season, Maku.
Yeah, I think so, and especially 6 seconds are like a lot, and somehow is Black Panther 5 seconds behind Mark? That seems weak. Alright, because I thought it was less. Right, then he would even... No, then he would just, then Philip would just be in 2nd. I thought he would drop the order down further. So...
Yeah, Black Panther hasn't really been showcasing good enough pace to keep up with the top 2. So he's still in a respectable 3rd place, especially considering where he started. And we have yellow flags which have been lifted already, so whatever was causing them has already been resolved. Still on board with Rupert, who is slowly but surely losing pace to Speed Booster, and that definitely is not going to help him, as that was a bit of a wobble. He managed to keep the car under control, so nice reflexes there from the Red Bull driver, but that is certainly not what he was looking for as he tries to hunt down the P5 of the championship leader. In the meantime, things have settled down a little bit, Maku. Looks like most of the battles have been resolved for the time being. There aren't drivers too close to each other. The two closest drivers on the track, Rupert and Speed Booster, as we have yellow flags in sector 3. That was Velocity, I believe. Yeah, Velocity had a mistake somewhere. He's going very, very slowly. He's already back up to speed. But yeah, Maku, considering things have normalized now, do you see someone that's having a good performance, something noteworthy for the viewers?
Not really right now. I think we can just watch the... Oh, and was the Velocity leaving the session?
Yeah, he might have disconnected.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, but it's just we'll just need to watch the racers now. But another point I have to point out is that it's now getting interesting, especially in the 8 cars at the front, because all of them are on medium tires, but all of them stopped at a different lap, and basically it's now playing out who saved more tires, who was better to his tires and who was not, especially in having the grip until the end of the race, because we have still 7 laps to go, and those tires should be doing it until then.
Yeah, well, in the meantime, Millie overtakes the Ghost of Velocity, and a bit interesting moment, because South is on brand new softs. He wants to get out and try to do maybe the fastest lap or something. He wants to get past Rupert, but maybe at least try to disturb Rupert so that the Red Bull can't catch up to the Renault. But we know what happened last time a Red Bull had someone trying to unlap himself into turn 1 at Brazil. So let's see what happens this time around. South is going to get the RS, he's going for it. Rupert is coming into the pits. He might be throwing a good result away. Maybe it's just betting on the points, but for whatever points X-Ray is going to gain, if he gets the fastest lap, he gets a point. He's going for the...
What?
He's going for the full wets.
What is happening?
He probably had a mistake on the tire selection menu.
Yeah, I think so.
And he goes for the full wet. That is disastrous for him, as Felipe Nunes gets another penalty. So he might even get out of the top 3 entirely. And of course, there's zero grip on Rupert's tires. What a disastrous mistake for Rupert. Disappointing effort today. Just a tough day in the office for the Red Bull driver. As looking back to the front, we have Flex Marcy, who is at the moment hunting down a Black Panther for P3.
We have a little bit of a battle with the Ghost of Velocity, Toffee and Eagle, because Toffee just overtook the Ghost, and no, it's a little bit, yeah. So they bounce a little bit onto each other, because the Ghost, the AI of F1 isn't the best, you know, and it's a little bit complicated to overtake them. And Weka just posted in the chat that her game was stuttering all the way through, so that should be the reason why
it
crashed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Flex Marcy getting awfully close to Black Panther. Felipe Nunes does have 9 seconds of penalties, so this could possibly be the battle for P2 and P3 at the end of things, unless any of these two drivers has any amount of penalties. But pole position overtakes Rupert. Millie is closing in as well on the Red Bull, so yeah, the Red Bull, even if he didn't pit, he would probably gain more points, because what, 9th place with the fastest lap point is only 3 points. getting P6 would probably be more than 3 points, right? So, not exactly sure why he pitted. Flex Marcy is going to attack Black Panther. They are side by side into turn number 1. Black Panther, a bit more braver on the brakes, manages to keep P3 for the time being. Marcy, though, is going to push now, as Marcy does have a battery charge advantage over the Belgium driver of the Williams. He's closing into turn 4. He's going to take the inside, and he follows through, gets the move done, up to P4, P3 rather, beautiful maneuver. Black Panther has to settle for P4 as he doesn't have the tools to fight back. Flex Marcy, despite having older tires, still having better pace and jumps past the Belgium Maku.
Yeah, but I wonder why Rupert is staying out on the wets, because I mean, he pitted on them, and that was, I think it was a mistake, and now he had the chance to get into the pits and to at least have some tires to where you can drive on, to at least drive the race to its end. But he stayed out on the full wets, and yeah, I don't know what he's doing right now.
Yeah, well, he should take it. I mean, maybe it's just trying to just take them to the end. There's no point really. Ooh, Flex and Marcy didn't move. A bit naughty there, perhaps, on Black Panther. Not entirely sure. Flex and Marcy is just taking these low sportsmanship moves for some reason, and you can see the waving now. So maybe just a bit of lack of confidence on his own abilities if he has to resort to those kind of maneuvers. Maybe a bit of low sportsmanship there, but Black Panther was certainly blocked that time around. It won't make the Williams driver quit though. And by the way, as you can see in chat, we have a straw poll link to the driver of the day vote, so make sure to drop there and let us know your what you think of it. Of course, I am also going to click on it myself, and later on I'm going to choose the driver of the day and see the results. But for now, Black Panther has lost out a bit on Marcy, and really after that block he's really not able to get back to the same pace, and he lost out a little bit during that third sector. He still have 2 laps to go, so he still has 2 laps to retake that P3, which might actually convert into a P2 depending on penalties. Marcy is now catching up to Velocity, who in the meantime has gotten back into the game. Now it's going to be interesting to see, will Velocity hold up Black Panther? These could be, and yeah, he completely blocks Panther there. I'm not sure what he was doing. Maybe better to try to let pass someone in the straight instead of in the corner exit. That would be probably the wiser of maneuvers. But yeah, Black Panther already out of the RS straight, due in great parts to Velocity's maneuver there. South gets another penalty, and we are going to be starting last lap of the Grand Prix. We have Barney, who has caught up to Speed Booster, so maybe a mistake there from the Renault, and Barney is closing in on the championship leader as Felipe Nunes starts the last lap of the Grand Prix. I'm not going on board with the Red Bull because he has the sound glitch, as his revs are always in maximum for some reason. So Barney is going to take the slipstream, going to take the DRS. He's going for an approach on the outside, not close enough to make it stick just yet. Let's see how that one goes. Coming out now of turn number 3 all the way down into turn 4. Let's see who gets the better run. He's still on mode 2 of ERS. Not sure why he's not on mode 4. This is the last lap. He should just be giving it means maximum fuel mode and maximum ERS, because he's not going to get any other chance. Looking back to the front, Felipe Nunes is getting closed in by Mark. So certainly Mark is going to well, take the win unless he has more penalties. So it is what it is. Let's see how that one goes. Felipe Nunes, he led almost every single lap, pole position, and is going to be the first driver to cross the line. Nonetheless, it's going to be Mark who crosses over the line to take home the win of the Brazilian Grand Prix. 4th win of the season for the Ferrari driver. Flex and Marcy in P2. Black Panther still gets P4 by a tenth of a second. So he's not able to claim that top 3. Booster in P5. Barney at a penalty. Drops down to P7 as Hypnotize claims P6. Emilio Sachs with a great recovery drive is going to get home in P8. Pole position in P9. And Birkov as melee DNFs. Birkov, despite his struggles, gets himself P10. So another point scoring race for the number 24. So click on the link in chat, guys, and let's choose the driver of the day. I would say it's pole position for his recovery, for sure. I would say it's pole position from last place, even after that mistake where he got P13. I would say that pole position is the driver of the day. There are a few other selections. We have Barney and Felipe Nunes chosen as driver of the day, but yeah, my vote would go to pole position, as we have a celebration from the Maranello boys as Mark takes the 4th win of the season. Now we have officially Mark, Flex and Marcy, Felipe Nunes, Black Panther just by a tenth and a half, missing out on the podium. And yeah, that block from Velocity really has another dimension. He just needed to be able to keep up on the RS of Flex and Marcy, and they would probably be able to get P3 from the Brazilian. Nonetheless, we still have the homeboy for the enthusiasm of the home crowds. The homeboy still gets on the podium to taste that sweet champagne. Black Panther in P4, Speed Booster in front of Hypnotize, as we have Barney in P7, Emilio Sachs in P8, and pole position gaining 10 positions from the start in P9. Birkov completes the top 10, then Millie, Iceman, Toffee, Eagle, Velocity, South Rupert as Weke and Daryl DNF'd. Also Millie DNF'd, but those other drivers were all one lap down, so they couldn't unlap themselves from Millie. So now going to get, as you can see from the votings, pole position is the driver with the most votes at the moment. And just going to Maku, if you could create the voice chat.
Sure, just a second.
Okay.
There should be one, yeah.
Yeah, so for the moment, just waiting. Okay, I'm going to join the voice channel, and now I'm going to tag, who was it? It was Mark, Flexa Marcy, and Flip Nunes. So, Mark, Flexa Marcy, and what is Felipe? What is Felipe's nickname? Oh, it changed it. It's
Felipe Funes.
Yeah, it changed it. So yeah, I got thrown off. Get in voice chat. Yeah. Yeah, the Williams got the Constructors' Championship. I believe they have almost 80 points of an advantage. So mathematically, Williams are the Constructors' Champions. So we have the homeboy for today's race in chat. We have Mark as well, just waiting for Marcy. But while we wait for him, just going to speak with Flip Nunes, the homeboy for today. He is saying that he's not sure that he can speak. You are muted in the voice chat, so maybe that's why you can't speak. Not sure if you have an issue with the microphone or not, but you are muted, so maybe unmuting yourself would be better. But yeah, you got the podium in your own race, and then the qualifying went well, but then a bit of lack of perhaps discipline. What do we have to say? I'm going to have to wait for Flip to type, but yeah, were you always, even in practice, were you these undisciplined? Were you always getting penalties during practice? Because that really took away your chance for a win. I'm just going to wait for Felipe Nunes to respawn. In the meantime, I'm going to talk to second placed Flexa Marcy, as I was going to say you did have a good start, managed to keep yourself in P2 there from Felipe Nunes. I was expecting you to be able to deploy the same strategy you deployed at the Circuit of the Americas, but it just didn't work out today. What happened?
Oh, thanks, guys. This race was cool. I have a very good pace, I think, but sadly I spin on the turn 4, and yes,
Yeah, but
but I have
yeah, yeah,
I have very good battles in the midfield, and
yeah.
yeah.
It was a bit tough for you though to keep up with the leader before the pit stop. Then you undercut, but before that, were you just not comfortable on the softs?
I strangling a little bit
Okay, okay.
on the soft.
Yeah. Well, then you still managed to recover, and due to Felipe's penalties, you still get P2. So congrats on another podium.
Thank
And
you.
taking a look at the winner today, of course, it's Mark who gets himself the fourth win for the Maranello boys. What do you have to say about your performance?
Well, good evening, all, and congrats to Speed Booster again. And my race was good and clean without one warning, and Felipe was very fast all race and constant with his pace. But I'm very happy about my pace too, and a good clean race. Even if I had a little lag all race, but fortunately no problem with that. The battle at the start was very hard to stay close with the first three cars, but yeah, I'm really happy with this win.
Thank you for your words. I was waiting for Felipe Nunes to post in chat his answer to my question, but I'm not sure if he's typing or not, so yeah, I just have to wrap things up for today. So this is it for today. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, give us a like button. If you did not, the dislike button is as always right beside it. Subscribe if you like to see more. Hit the icon for any notifications of whenever we are about to start the live stream or to post any videos. Hope to see you guys next time around in 1 week's time for the last round of the championship at the Yas Marina circuit for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Hope to see you guys there and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.